Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
What's up, everybody? We are back on Peacemaker, Podmaker, episode 5.
We're here to make peace by any means necessary.
Right. Just like that man, John Cena, and he's making his return to wrestling this week. We are making our return to YouTube this week.
The WWE Super Slam.
Yeah. All of that. He coming into his little retirement tour or whatever. He's opening, I think. I don't know. I guess you gotta be ESPN subscriber. I'm not on ESPN. So I don't know.
I canceled my Disney Plus subscription this week.
Yeah, no, I've been seeing that happening. I will cancel it. I just have to finish a couple rewatches before I do that.
Okay, we're getting political right off the bat, but I'm not mad at it. We tend to do that here on the Podmaker podcast.
Nah, facts. Alien Earth is off. Disney, you're done. You cut. I could say that for $1 a month. But yeah, no. It's been a good week though. How's your week been since our last pod?
It's been good, just staying busy. Tuned into the new season of Gen V, which is another superhero show that's airing on Amazon Prime, sort of a spinoff of The Boys. It's kind of like Sky High if Sky High was rated R. And having all this superhero content, it's a little superhero fatigue, but Peacemaker always just brings it every episode, and I think the comparison between those two shows, Peacemaker's bringing a new light to how you can do superhero TV, which I really appreciate, obviously. Also, I don't know if anybody listening watches the show Big Brother. It's a reality competition show. I went to it's called Reality Bar, and basically they screen these episodes, and it's kind of like how people might watch a sports match or whatever at a sports bar, but it's like for the reality show. And it was my first time going to that, and that was really fun. And then I'm sitting there, the episode's wrapping up, I'm sipping my old fashioned, and who pops up on Big Brother other than James Gunn? Okay,
oh, really?
James Gunn apparently is a super fan of Big Brother. He's watched it for 20 years. And I feel like as much as this podcast is about Peacemaker, it's this is also a James Gunn watch podcast. I can't watch any other show or property without him popping up, whether it's Rick and Morty or, now Big Brother. Yeah. And it's super interesting how him as a behind-the-scenes creator is stepping forward and, putting himself out there on these other shows and stuff.
Yeah, dang. I didn't even know he was on Big Brother. That's a crazy connection. It's, again, Marvel versus DC, right? Because I know next week, Marvel former producer, Academy Award nominated producer Nate Moore, who was the producer on Black Panther, Captain America: Civil War, a lot of the Marvel movies, particularly the Black Panther movies, and a lot of later MCU films. He is going to be on Survivor season 49 this upcoming week. So it's like Marvel versus DC in a way. Even though Nate Moore is not Kevin Feige per se, he was third in command. He was the third highest ranked producer there at Marvel. James Gunn is obviously the top gun, but it's it's funny seeing they kind of warring over reality show platforms. I had no idea it was on Big Brother. That's hilarious.
Yeah, he came on at the end and did an interview with Julie Chen Moonves, who's the host of the show, and they were pretty much just chopping it up about how he is such a super fan. And it was funny because she was talking about, dude, you're running this new studio, you've got movies, TV shows, you're writing, directing, and Big Brother airs 3 times a week. There's 24/7 live feeds. There's so much content to consume. And she's like, how do you find the time to watch this show? And he's like, oh, out of everything in my life, Big Brother comes first. And
Yeah.
Now, Big Brother, you're a super fan. It's a big commitment. We're on 3 times a week. We got live feeds 24/7. How do you find the time?
It's the most important thing in my life. So Big Brother comes, you guys know, you all know, Big Brother comes first.
Now there is a smart man.
Yeah, you gotta that's all, it's all very important. I'm not saying I don't love my job. I'm not saying I don't love the DC fans. I love Superman, I love Man of Tomorrow, I love all of them. But I really love Big Brother, and that's what's most important.
And it's interesting because sometimes Big Brother feels like a James Gunn production. It's all these group dynamics, social dynamics, power dynamics, relationships, ultimately a competition. But yeah, super interesting. I don't get tired of seeing him. I just think it's interesting and kind of cool that he's becoming such a public-facing extension of the DCU. And people at the reality bar were it was like split. You know, half the people were kind of fanning out over, whoa, James Gunn's up there, and then half of them were like, wait, who? So it's definitely an interesting extension of the new DC universe.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I feel like we're definitely in the era of like all-star directors, you know, like the Christopher Nolans, the Jordan Peeles. Those are names that can sell a movie or show on their own, right? And I think now Gunn is trying to position himself as that kind of. He's always kind of been that kind of person, but especially now with the DC. And I like it. I like seeing a studio executive or really a owner. I'm not owner. I can't keep saying owner, but like he doesn't own DC, but he's the head guy, you know.
Right.
And he's very public facing. Has that podcast, the Peacemaker recap podcast, where he's literally talking about every episode. Normally with creatives, you get their movie, they pop out for an interview or two, and then you don't really hear from them for a minute. Like I like the fact that James Gunn is like very forward. He's kind of explaining, some cases almost over explaining some of his creative choices, which is just like, you know, very interesting for me as a film viewer and aspiring filmmaker to kind of see that template play out in real time. And I think it's gonna bite him in the butt when the inevitable happens, which is the fans turn on you, because the fans always gonna turn. Like there's one thing that's for sure, that's for certain in this industry, the fans will turn on you, and it will happen with DC eventually. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but it will happen. And I would like to see how public facing Gunn's gonna be when that happens. But nah, it's good stuff. I mean, look, man's busy. Man's writing Superman, Peacemaker, and then Superman 2. They already announced it. They already gonna be filming it early next year. We waited like 4 years or 5 years for another Batman movie, and then we only waiting 2 years for Superman. So it's like, you know, he's a fast worker. He's obviously, you know, cranking them out, overdosing on Adderall, you know, out on caffeine. Like he's doing all of it. But hey, if it's making a cohesive DC with that we're hitting deadlines, like yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
And also being more public facing, I think, brings more responsibility on you, right? Because a lot of times these filmmakers, especially I'm thinking of like big franchise projects, they're like, oh, we'll send out the A-list star. And there are some big names on these projects, but he's also championing a lot of up-and-coming actors, too. So I think that, like, him coming out into the public sphere a little bit more puts a little bit more of the responsibility of the quality, the cohesiveness onto him as a creator. And I think that it's a kind of a breath of fresh air because a lot of times these executives, these suits are like, you know, we're chopping up the film, we're doing this and that for monetary reasons. And I think this is sort of a way of him being like, I'm going to guide this ship and take responsibility for where it goes. And I think like I'm here for that on that level.
Yeah, nah, me too. It's really good to see. And speaking of Big Brother, we are in episode 5 of Peacemaker. Season 2, the Big Brother is, or actually, yeah, Chris is the Big Brother in that situation. Chris officially makes the decision to transfer over to the other alternate universe. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen the episode already.
Back to the Suture, episode 5.
Back to the Suture, episode 5, written by James Gunn, directed by Althea Jones. veteran TV director. I mean, this was, I feel like, a big kind of transition episode. I feel like this is kind of a clear marking sign from like what we've been building up to this season to where it's headed to down
Yeah.
the future.
This is definitely like a decision-making episode, and I think like it's kind of one of those things that it can feel a little bit like, we're not getting as much exciting action or momentum because we're kind of sitting in the decision that Chris is making. But I think like just looking at the preview for next week's episode, like it's gonna pay off because that next week's episode looks insane. And also, yeah, I mean, this is a big decision for Chris. Why would you want to stay in a universe where everything is going wrong when you literally have a door to a universe where everything is going right for you?
Yeah, it's a big, like you said, decisions got to be made. There's going to be, it's been implied by Gunn and a lot of the creatives behind the scenes that 6, 7, and 8 are going to be huge episodes, huge twists, huge lore drops, things like that. Gunn's actually directing the next episode 6, and also doing the finale of the season. So it's like these probably seem like pretty big deal episodes, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see where it goes. We have our theories. I think our theory is becoming more and more confirmed every single day now. With the alternative universe being a all-white universe. In fact, there's actually a DC concept, a DC planet alternate universe called Earth X that is a universe that in the comics where Germany won World War II and Nazism ends up like running the whole multiverse.
My God.
Yeah. No, actually, shout out to one of our TikTok commenters. I didn't pull up the TikTok comments today, but one of the TikTok commenters pointed that out. I looked it up. I'm like, seemed kind of legit. I don't know.
Yeah. I also saw a TikTok recently about how it was like this person who had majored in American Christianity, and she was talking about how I can send it to you, so maybe you can put it in the edit or something. But kind of like there was this split in the mid-century, the 20th century, where it was like a KKK-led Christianity versus like a wholesome or American-led, and like the Mormonism interpretation of Christianity being like a blonde dude with blue eyes, and how that sort of excluded a lot of inclusion in America. And
Charlie Kirk's form of Christianity is a form of white supremacy by which I have a theory that in America there are two types of main Christianity. One worships Jesus, the other worships white supremacy. The KKK, and I'm talking about the revival of the KKK, like post D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation, created this revival of the KKK. And why I bring this up that is so important and necessary is because the KKK identified as Christians. And not just Christians, but they had 3 basic enemies, or like in their basic like manifesto. Number 1, obviously, not surprisingly, Black people. Number 2, Jewish people. The third, though, were Catholics.
I could definitely see like the Nazism playing into it too, but I think it's super interesting how like there's this crossover in American culture between like the Mormon view of Christianity and Jesus Christ, and like how the KKK like latched onto that and used it as like a sort of bigoted version of their religion. And I think what you're saying is probably going to come to fruition with like it being sort of a more like World War II Nazi-centric bigoted society. But I think like there's also those undercurrents that maybe played into it too. But let's start from the top of this episode. We get that funeral scene.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, well,
Rick
yes.
Rick Flag Jr.'s funeral. We see that 3 years ago again. It's kind of a repeat of the previous week's episode, where we're doing a 3 years flashback. Well, a lot of the episodes this season start with like a in the past flashback, which
Well, all of the openings start with flashbacks. This is a direct continuation from the conversation that Amelia and Rick Flag Sr. had in the last episode when there was like, you remember at the funeral when you said you would do this, da da da, and then it's like we're kind of seeing that play out. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. I'm they're the way they're teasing this Rick Flag Jr. thing, like where is this really going? You know, because it's like I feel like we already saw Rick Flag Jr. We already saw like the comedic version. If that's gonna be the new DC, I can't imagine this Frank Grillo tough out dude seeing that version of his son and being like, yeah, this is me. Like he's gonna take that in with that's not gonna happen. So it's either gonna result in a real race against time. We see later in the episode Rick Flag Sr. is like reading files about quantum mechanics and trying to figure out how this whole time or this whole multiverse things works. He might try to hunt Chris down in the multiverse, but where does he end up getting stuck? We got to see. We just got to see. So
I was thinking about that too, because if, Chris is being lured into the multiverse because his dead family members are there as a part of it, I could see Rick Flag Sr. also being lured in because his son, who clearly he's having a lot of difficulty with that grief and trying to, beat up Peacemaker and hunt him down for that. I could see maybe there's a resolution where he's left there. I don't know, just a little prediction. But I thought it was interesting too how Economos was at the funeral, kind of implying that, I mean, I guess he is just this kind of standard Argus agent, so it makes sense that he would have worked for him, but we didn't have any of this context in season 1 that they all knew this person that Peacemaker killed, and so it kind of in retroactively like explains a little bit about the bias and like the sort of not wanting to work with him vibe that they were giving off in season 1, which is interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is all, taking place. This is all giving us context of what happened between season 1 of Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad, right? Because when you go from the Suicide Squad to Peacemaker, we only see it from like Chris's perspective, right? Like he gets shot in the neck, Charlie Kirk style, and then he ends up waking up, and then we wake up. The first scene in Peacemaker season 1 is just him in the hospital waking up and figuring out like what's going on, and we kind of follow his journey from there. So now it's kind of like we saw his post Suicide Squad everything, but now we're kind of seeing everybody else's, like Amelia, and kind of adds a little bit of extra tragedy to the Peacemaker season 1 kind of situation, because it's like, yeah, you kind of forgot that they were all working with Economos, Hardcore. They was all working with Rick Flag Jr. because they were in Suicide Squad, right? Like they was part of that agency, part of that group that was sending those guys out. So in a way, as much as Chris is responsible for killing them, they are also kind of responsible for being on that task force and letting Viola Davis, Amanda Waller, wild out like that.
Right. They're all kind of victims of her power trip in a way.
Exactly. So it's like, and that's why I almost kind of feel like this is like misdirected anger, right? Like, yeah, you could be mad at Peacemaker for doing what he has to do to your son, but at the end of the day, Frank Grillo, Rick Flag Sr., he's gonna have to realize, like, yo, this was Argus's fault. And I wonder if he ends up seeing that, if he ends up turning against the organization, if he ends up, doing something crazy. But yeah, that's the narrative arc that I'm kind of the most unsure about in this series, for sure.
Yeah, it's really nice to see how they all, like all the members of the 11th Street Kids, like, there might not be so directly working together this season, but they're all stepping in and literally saving his life in many ways. So in the park scene, Harcourt tried to save his life by sending him that text that says copacetic.
Right. Well, I was gonna say let's dive into that park scene real quick too, because also, like you said, the copacetic, for one, it's also another example of like the extras differential, right, between our universe and the other universe, right? In this universe, you see a lot of great people come. My favorite visual joke is when Flurry and the other agent are setting up, and then this one like hot lady walks by, and then Flurry's like very, it's like, yo, what the? So it's like so it's like, yeah, we see the diversity there. We also see how smart. It's funny, like that's what's kind of funny about Chris, right? He gets the text about the copacetic, so he knows the code, and he very clearly knows the code because he's intentionally running behind people.
Yeah.
He's intentionally like hugging random people or playing soccer with kids like at the exact right time. Like he's totally, we forget how smart he is, so he's playing the game to a T until he gets to that bench. And of course, that heartbreaking conversation between him and Amelia is what, basically convinces him to like move on.
Yeah, he's risking it all for love.
Right. He's risking it all for love, and he's willing to give it all up, even to the effect of getting caught by Argus by the end of it. I mean, he fights a little bit. We see some classic Peacemaker punches in there, but
yeah,
he was.
And we also get the big cyborg reveal in that scene.
That's literally what I was just about to
which was like, that's wild. I never expected her to have any sort of like enhancements in that way. And then all of a sudden you see her. I thought maybe it was like a contact lens. I mean, just this week, Meta unveiled these glasses that basically do the same thing. So I'm thinking maybe it's a Meta contact lens or something, where she's like doing calculations in her eye. And then, they reveal at some point in the episode that she basically is, in a way, like property of Argus because her life was saved.
Sasha Borderaux. This is actually one of our first live action. We had little Batman connections with the rabbit in episode 1, the little bunny in episode 1, but this is our first true significant Batman connection that we have in the DCU. This is a huge moment.
Really?
Yeah, Sasha Borderaux is actually mostly known as a Batman character. She originated in Batman comics in like 2000. She had a romantic relationship with Bruce Wayne. And you could drop a character by name and it's like, it can mean something, but doesn't really mean anything. But the fact that she's also a cyborg, she's in Argus, and they clearly casted somebody very beautiful for this part. Like, this seems like a very long-term, recurring kind of situation.
Yeah, and she's so funny too. The way that she ends up the way that she's flirting with Rick Flag Sr. at some point in the episode, and we kind of see a little romantic spark between them, I thought was super interesting.
Yeah.
She's probably, trying to get a little workplace romance going, a little fling. Maybe there's some more motives there. Who knows how we'll see that play out. But it's clear that they're kind of a duo and they're on the same side and going to be sort of thick as thieves throughout the entire series. And then also the way that Rick Flag Sr. kind of shuts the blinds when he has Peacemaker in the interrogation room and he's like, let me go at this fool. And they're all kind of looking at him like, what? Like, this kind of seems a little sketch. But she was the one that seemed a little bit more on board for it. And then again, Economos saves his life by booking him. So in this episode, we get 2 life saves. First from Harcourt in the park, and then Economos booking him in the system, which is interesting. Like, I guess Rick Flag Sr. is carrying on this tradition of being a very sketchy law enforcement operation institution, because the same way that Amanda Waller kept everything sort of off the books and like a little hush-hush, now we see him repeating that cycle, but for his own personal vengeance against Peacemaker. And he beat him with like within an inch of his life,
Right. Well, before we get to that beating, Tim Meadows' Flurry, his character has a very interesting moment in there too, where, they're kind of having that whole conversation about whether to book, Economos should book him or not. And Amelia's like, are you, do it, type thing. He says to Economos right then and there, like, yeah, I'm glad you did that. That's the one, for a comedic character, you think, he's going to just be playing one note the whole time. But you actually kind of see, like, there's levels of humanity to this Argus organization, which makes sense because, again, Suicide Squad established, like, there are people like the Amanda Wallers, in this one, there's people like the Rick Flag seniors who use their power for whatever, but there's still actual human beings on the ground floor of this situation. So, yeah, that was good to see Flurry kind of have that moment. That was great to see Frank Grillo's performance in that moment too, when he was fighting with Peacemaker. And also, again, John Cena really delivers all the way through and through with the dramatics in this episode, because it's
Yeah.
both like, both with the conversation with Amelia, even with him not fighting back when Amelia gives him the scissor kick. That was the one thing I was gonna mention too. She gave him a wicked Black Widow scissor kick, spinning
Totally.
move.
Yeah.
That was super super fly. We don't see that a lot, and it's just a deeper part of Chris Smith's journey of just letting himself get beat up and letting himself just fall because he's just kind of given up on his world, given up on life, and he really doesn't want to be a part of this universe because he's already seen the grass is greener on the other side so far. So he's already kind of resigned, and I think in that sequence, I think if Homegirl shot him, he would have been cool with dying. I think if Frank Grillo would have beat him to death, he would have been cool with that. But because they didn't do that, because they, even though, like we say, Economos and Hardcore saved him, I don't think he wanted to be saved. Like, I think he wanted to either not be in this universe or just die, So, like, he either wanted to be in the other universe or die. So I feel like he kind of had this little death wish that kind of almost hit a little harder when he ends up, later on in the episode, when he ends up transporting into the other world, he kind of almost leaves, like, seemingly like a suicide note, like,
Yeah, there's a lot of like themes of nihilism and suicidal ideation in this episode, and he's just, I feel like he is sort of just trying to, when he got the answer from Hardcore, like whether it was her being honest or not, or trying to save him in another way by saying, I'm not interested in you, that was all for fake. That was kind of his last box he needed to check before fully checking out of this dimension. And again, this is a big decision episode. So that was a big thing that his decision hinged on. And also, when we look at the flashback at the beginning of the episode, to me, that kind of gave me a little bit more insight into maybe why she's going out to these bars and she's doing these beatings and trying to fight, because I think maybe that's how she's processing her grief, is by, of course she wants to stay sharp as an agent too, and we've talked about this a lot in the other episodes, but seeing how much Rick Flag Jr.'s death did impact her, she's maybe not as capable of expressing those emotions or sharing that or processing that. So I think throwing herself into these fights is a way for her to like feel something. And I think nihilism is honestly just like a major theme of this entire show. Even, with Adrian just being a sociopath.
Right.
But yeah, do you want to move on to another scene, like the Greek phone call scene?
Well, yeah, the Greek phone. Yeah, that was hilarious. That was hilarious.
That was so funny.
That was super funny. Yeah, of course, only gonna be only 12 people reading this. Of course, one of them is gonna be a pervert in this magazine that she put her ad in. So that was hilarious. I had no idea what doing Greek meant.
Me neither.
That mug was crazy.
Of course, Adrian did though.
Right. Of course, Adrian did.
I felt bad for Adebayo because here she is like really trying to get something off the ground, and it's just like, damn, misogyny strikes again.
Right. I love how when they pick him up from the jail, he's still in the backseat, like when like he's in the backseat the whole time when them two in the front, and then when even Adebayo's just driving, Adrian still sits in the back seat just like by himself. It's like, bruh, because he be missing Chris. Now it is that Adrian has a very emotional scene.
Also, did you know that like unlike stingrays, manta rays do not have stingers? Like they're totally harmless to humans. They're also very intelligent. Their brains are the largest relative to body size of all fish, so they actually are capable of showing signs of self-recognition in mirrors. So just some manta ray facts for you guys.
Yeah, no, I love how he's armed with animal facts. Again, I feel like this is just a real life stand. This is like a fictional stand-in for James Gunn, just in the script. And but speaking of animals, speaking of freaking animals, this Eagly adventure is climaxed in a way that I would not have seen coming whatsoever.
No, yeah.
For one, Red Saint Wild, Michael Rooker, he tries to poison Eagly, doesn't work. And then he pulls out this giant, just 8 foot long shotgun.
Yeah. Bro's giving Elmer Fudd straight up.
Like when he was pointing into the camera, I'm like, Jesus, this is so like this feels like I feel like you could write a whole conversation. Like there could be a whole feminist essay about men, flaccidal imagery, stuff like that. Just with how he was holding that piece. He had it on the knee, and it was funny. Apparently, that's a real gun. It's called a punt gun.
What?
Like it's a real functioning gun that I guess they used in like the 18th century for like hunting ducks and stuff.
It reminds me of like video games when your character pulls out an item that's like twice the size out of their backpack. Cause like where the hell did that come from?
Like where did that come from? Why didn't he do that to begin with? Like if he had his whole thing. So yeah, he pulls that out. And yeah, he shoots the eagle who he thinks is Eagly. But long and behold, the tail of the Prime Eagle was true the whole time. What was your reaction to that sequence?
It could have been a confirmation that this whole like mythical eagle superpower thing that the Michael Rooker character has going is like a real power, or like there's like this real energetic sort of super enhanced narrative going on with the whole eagle world. But I still felt confused, and we talked about this last week where we weren't sure if he was just the way they represented on screen was like a sort of like a visual representation of him astral projecting and doing something not very metahuman, or if it was indeed a superpower. And I felt the same way with the Alpha Eagle. I feel like just for my own sanity, I'm not taking that as any sort of super enhancement power. I'm taking that as sort of just a visual representation of his inner world. Like this is how he sees the eagle world, the landscape. But also because there were so many eagles and some of them looked like Eagly and some of them didn't, I wasn't sure exactly if Eagly was the one with that super marker, like that enhanced visual.
Right. I mean, I'm guessing, there's part of me that wants to say this was, real, or there's part of me wants to say both sides, right? Because on one hand, it can be a metahuman, or not metahuman, meta animal, I guess, where they
Meta furry.
Right, meta furry, exactly. Oh, geez, where they got, that situation where we got characters like Crypto, we got other superpowered animals in DC. Maybe that's one of those. I think the fact that I still like the theory that we were talking about last week, that he got hit in the head and this is all happening inside of his head. I think part of what supports that just a little bit is the fact that, like, when Akamos first pushed him over into that rock, and then he wakes up from the rock and he's like, "What the hell happened?"
I came up behind you when you were about to shoot that eagle.
Yeah, I remember getting a beat on it, but I can't quite remember anything after.
And then another eagle.
Another eagle?
Yeah, a second eagle flew in the fast, and boom!
Another eagle? He must be the Prime Eagle. And I feel like this is exactly what we saw with that situation. Like, he took the shot, and then, like, he got knocked over by another eagle, and then the Prime Eagle appears to him. So it's literally bringing to life what Economos had just completely made up on the spot. Like, he made up the whole thing about the other eagle, but it actually came to fruition as he was doing this whole thing. So yeah, part of me does feel like it is all happening in his head. For sure.
This show is so good at setting things up like one or two episodes prior, and then really, really paying them off. Like, that character could have just been, with weaker writing, could have just been a silly part of the group, but they really they committed. They commit to the threads that they're pulling with these characters. So I guess R.I.P. Michael Rooker as Captain Cultural Appropriation.
Right.
Looked like he got torn to bits by those eagles.
RIP. I mean, RIP. He could be dead. He could be mutilated. Like on the James Gunn podcast this week, they actually had Michael Rooker on there. Talking about his role as wrestling. Well, by the way, hilarious podcast because Michael Rooker, you can tell he just really don't know nothing about no DC, nothing. Like he just is purely there for like shits and giggles. And then, but for one, this character wasn't originally Michael Rooker. It was originally somebody else was cast in this role, and they shot most of the season with somebody else as that part.
What?
Yeah, and then they ended up recasting them at the last second, and Michael Rooker came in and reshot a lot of those sequences.
Thank God he pulled that off.
Yeah, that's that stuff. I mean, and for people keeping count, that is now the third Michael Rooker character to appear in the DCU so far to have lived and died. For Suicide Squad, he was Savant, I think his name was Savant, with the big staff, and he died in the very first scene, first 5 minutes. The second one, he was in Superman. He was the voice of one of the robots that Lex Luthor and his people ended up just destroying in the Fortress of Solitude.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was one of those voices. And yeah, Rest Ain't Wild. So, and James Gunn likes to put him in every movie. So I feel like he probably we might end up seeing another Michael Rooker somewhere down the line in the DC.
I'm here for it. He's so fun to watch. He's just like such a natural comedic actor, like kind of like Tim Meadows.
Right.
And the actor, I feel like comedic actors are also really good at playing drama too. So yeah. I'm here for that. And speaking of Tim Meadows, we get a really funny conversation between him and Judo Master, who he calls Duncan Munchkin. And there's like this whole wild conversation they have about the science of little people, and Judo Master threatens to like rip off his, and so it's like there's their dynamic is so funny. I feel like they finally met their match with each other. Talking over the phone like that.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Judo Master continues to be one of my favorite characters. He's just always chomping on them hot Cheetos, even to the point where you see his steering wheel is just covered in hot Cheeto dust. Like, Jesus, you eating
Bro has to have a stomach ulcer.
Yeah.
Also, just a coincidence, but I have Duncan here today. So, getting a little product placement there.
Perfect crossover. And yeah, Judo Master pulls up, sees the whole switch about to happen, he sees the portal as Chris is about to step into it. For one, I didn't know how this whole helmet portal transportation technology worked, but it's kind of crazy that you could set it up, open it, and then close it, then like step through it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. It's kind of an interesting little kind of situation. I was a little confused by that, but it was, I'm
really excited to see how Judo Master plays out in the other multiverse or how that plays out. But I was, with everything going wrong for Chris, and this being like an anxiety watch through and through, I was so relieved to see that Adrian and Adebayo like got the note, got both notes. So they don't really even know Judo Master. Argus doesn't know Judo Master like went through the portal. They kind of have a cold trail, and I was just like relieved for a minute to see like, okay, maybe there's a chance that like things are gonna go right for them. And then we also see like, we see Adrian kind of have an emotional roller coaster too. I think this is the first time we've seen him kind of have a mentee be and start crying, and
yeah,
and I really like, to that point, I really, really enjoy watching the friendship dynamic between Adrian and Adebayo, because I feel like they're both kind of loners, and seeing them sort of come together and, she's kind of supporting him, I think it's really wholesome, and I'm excited to see how this all plays out next week.
Yeah, no, indeed. I thought that scene was heartbreaking. I mean, that was the most heartbreaking thing. It was like that one guy that one strong friend, you never see him bend or get emotional or anything. And then when they break down, it's like, I must really hurt. So yeah, that was really tough to watch him cry and break down. I was like, damn, I don't think we ever seen him really even shed a tear or anything in this series so far. Like, it's it was tough.
He's a straight sociopath.
Yeah, straight sociopath. He plays it perfectly. And if I'm not mistaken, that was also another situation where they had casted somebody else in season 1, shot a lot of those scenes, and then they recasted Adrian for, in season 1. And this new actor that they got from, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he's phenomenal, man. He's phenomenal.
He is so good. Like, I'm a fan of his work.
Yeah, no, it's good to see. I mean, I do think, like, dang, Jimmy Gunn.
Jimmy Gunn, I'm dead.
Jimmy Gunn, if you're going to cast somebody, cast them. You got to live with it. You don't have to live with it. I'm saying that as, like, somebody, like...
I mean, I think it's, like, it's good to be open to changing things if it's not working, but I also just feel so bad for those performers who, they show up to a big project and then all of a sudden it's like, whatever, but I'm sure there must be some sort of compensation situation going on, because that sucks, dude.
Yeah, to not only get the role, but to shoot a lot of the role and then to have it recast, it's like, that kind of hurts a little bit. But, talking about people getting paid, shout out Marlon Wayans. The new movie Him is coming out this week. If you didn't know, Marlon Wayans was actually cast as Robin in the Batman Forever and Batman and Robin back in the 1990s. Oh, wow. And they have fully casted him. Tim Burton had cast him and everything, but they cut his role in both of those movies. And then in the second one, they ended up going with Chris O'Donnell to play Robin in Batman and Robin instead of Marlon Wayans. So it was like, dang, this, it sucked. But Marlon Wayans did get a check for both of those roles, even though he didn't even star in the movie. So I'm glad he got paid, but it does hurt a little bit because it's like, damn, we could have seen like a cool young black Robin, next to Val Kilmer or George Clooney. That would have been nice. But yeah, all that to say, all the casting is perfect. There's also another funny little beat that another insight that Gunn had brought in on his podcast too. Apparently, Steve Agee, who plays Economos, he was originally the body morph or the body double for King Shark and Suicide Squad as well.
Oh wow!
And then of course Sylvester Stallone played the voice. But yeah, no. Lastly, wrapping up towards the end of the episode. Again, Chris steps into the portal. We're seeing everybody kind of dealing with their emotions through it. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that was pretty much like the last scene. But but then we see the post credit, which you had talked about. Not the post credit, but the
teaser for next week. Yeah, I'm really excited. We're gonna be coming back next week talking about the craziest episode yet, as it seems. But I would describe this week's episode as an emotional roller coaster. Rob, if you had to describe this week's episode in 1 or 2 words, what would you say?
I'll say Prime Eagly. Prime Eagly. Yeah, so Prime Eagly is here. Like you said, we already running kind of long, so we'll wrap this up pretty soon. But, like you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, Gen V is also dropping this week. So we have a true clash of superhero content. It's not Marvel versus DC, but it's DC versus Amazon Prime or something.
Yeah, it's interesting because like the Boys universe kind of set up this whole like nitty gritty superhero storytelling method that I kind of think Peacemaker's taking on. But I think at this point Peacemaker's doing it better because I think Gen V, I'm enjoying it. I'm gonna be here for it, but also it's like very dark. Some of the writing is a little shoddy. It's kind of taking itself a little too seriously, verging on like CW territory, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And that's just my take. But we'll see. Maybe we'll talk about Gen V some more if you guys want to hear about it.
Yeah, maybe we do. Maybe we don't. My question to you, Cade, and to the audience at home is, if you had to get transported to any of these universes, the MCU, the DCU, the Boys universe, the Spider-Man multiverse, I'll even throw that one in there. If you had to choose any superhero multiverse to get transported to, you have to step into that dimension door and like Chris does. Which one are you entering?
I really love the Disney Plus series Loki. I really like the TVA, the aesthetic of the TVA, the time travel element of the TVA. So maybe that. But also, I really love the original Iron Man film. So like maybe something where I step into the shoes of Peter Parker, played by Tom Holland, and I kind of take over that. I think that would be sick.
I feel that those are good choices. I feel like being in the MCU, but on the West Coast, might be the safest option.
Yeah.
Because only really ones that take place in LA are like Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3.
And they're all party scenes.
Yeah, they're mostly party scenes. Exactly, it's mostly the fun stuff. And then Shang-Chi was in San Francisco. But if you're in LA, I feel like you're pretty all right in the MCU. And the DC, part of me likes the DCU because at least like it seems like the superheroes have some sort of accountability. Like Superman's not gonna let the entire city get destroyed. Like he'll at least like save a squirrel or two. So I feel relatively safe in Metropolis. But I will say I am making the jump to the Boys universe only because, as we've seen in the Boys and in Gen Z and Gen V as well, they have a very strong media apparatus. As a filmmaker, I feel like I could be a studio puppet for VOD Industries, and I can make my millies easily. You know what I'm saying? So,
but I find that so annoying about the Boys universe that everything in their world is VOD branded. The gas station, the food at VOD Burger. I mean, it's basically like an authoritarian regime. I mean, everything down to the cup of coffee you're drinking is VOD, and it's like I get that like this is the world that we're entering, but it's also like, is there really no market competition? And maybe I'm thinking too much into it.
No, that's legit. No, for real.
But it's also like they have superheroes that are going to stiff arm the competition too, take them out. So I could see how that actually comes to fruition. But yeah, I don't know. I think the Boys universe is a little too scary for me.
It is scary. Again, I just think about Homeboy in season 4 of The Boys, who was like the director, and while all these other characters were getting killed off, getting axed, the one guy who was just nervously directing and subservient to the Homelander, he seemed to keep his life the whole time, you know what I'm saying, through all 4 seasons. And he was just a normal dude. So I'm like, all right, I can play that role, you know?
Would you really want to be in a room with Homelander, though?
I mean, he's not going to try and suck my titties, right? Like, I don't think he would. So
no, I'm talking about him looking at you weird, and all of a sudden you got a laser beam going through your chest.
Hey, look, I ain't gonna question my man's. You know what I'm saying? Homelander come into the room is I'm stepping like he's Kim Jong Un. You know what I'm saying? So
if I was in the Gen V universe, I would definitely inject some what's it called?
Blue?
Some of that blue, that
Yeah.
V, compound V.
Yeah.
I would love to see what my genetic makeup comes up with.
Yeah. Yo, that's fun. That's true too. I didn't think of the Boys universe is really the only one where like you can become a superhero. Like I feel like DC Marvel, it either happens to you or you're born with it. Here it's like, oh, you can make a choice. Like you can actually inject the stuff into you, for better or for worse. But yeah, all that being said, y'all, let us know in the comments where you will post up, which universe you will post up in, the MCU, the DCU, the Boys, Spider-Man's New York, wherever. You know what I'm saying? Let us know in the comments. And yeah, I mean, I was gonna read some comments, but dang man, we already running kind of long on this one. And well, it would be better just to save them up for next week. So make sure y'all get your comments in on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, everywhere, to let us know what your thoughts on Peacemaker is so far this season.
Yeah, y'all can find me everywhere at Cade Huseby. We're having a special screening event of Quarter Life Crisis, our feature film, in Los Angeles, October 5th. You can find the party full link in any of my bios. Come out, watch the film, come say hi to us. It's going to be dope. And yeah, just keep your eyes out for more Podmaker coming next week. Rob, what about you?
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at Director RB3. And make sure you subscribe to the First Cut YouTube channel. Hit that like button, comment, and follow First Cut at First Cut TMO on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everywhere too. So yeah.
All right, cool. See you next week. Peace.
All right, y'all. Peacemaker Pod. It's love, y'all. Peace in the Middle East.
You only one can remain. It's either me or you. Only one can remain. It's either me or you. Take you out the equation. It's either me